For instance, what we're moving to, we're already here. We are living in Baudrillard's hyperreality. We are here, okay? Hyperreality is this a type of simulacra, right? Where we're actually not engaging with reality. We're just engaging with copies, renditions, images, symbols, and simulations of real things, real environments, real objects, real people. We're already here. It is the end of history, as it were. That's clear. We can't change that. We can't go back. Now, the problem with that is it's only being exacerbated because of artificial intelligence and its ubiquity, right? It will be everywhere. It already is. All devices, all programs, software systems, right, are going to have an on or a baked in AI operating system. It's already happening now. Now, what we're already running up against is this type of war on ontology, our inability to understand what's real and what's not real. And this is something that's going to become rather normal moving forward. New tech from camera makers tries to prove photos are not fake. All it does is prove honest people are honest. So it's just, we're going to have to push towards all types of corrective technologies. It's similar to how, computers came out and software came out, and then all of a sudden, antivirus software comes out. It's a similar kind of scenario. Progress trap. More progress, more problems, or more technology, more problems, should we say. Now, let me show you some creepy AI stuff here. Now, let me make sure we're on par with my notes here. Oh, well, I forgot to show you the slide. So we're now in the mind. So we went from body to mind. Okay, so now let me pull up. All right, so we did body, right? Now we're in mind. Hold up. Body. Okay. Okay, let me quickly here. A technological attitude example. This is a text or a tweet from Fast Company publication. It says, and this is just, I thought this tweet was a good representation of the technological attitude, okay? It says the U.S. needs a thriving tech ecosystem to respond immediately to whatever crisis comes next. This means more collaboration, accelerating the decision life cycle with data and AI, and building a lasting trust. Okay, platitudes, building lasting trust. What does that even mean? How do you accomplish that? Who's involved? I mean, it's absolute nonsense. A lot of this, we're digging ourselves a very deep hole because we have a technological attitude in that we pay much less attention to the consequences and the logical conclusions to some of this stuff than we do to its alleged progress, advancements, and etc. Okay, so that's just a good example of that. Now let's go to mind. Mind, ability to think and to know things. So just like the body, it's our ability to act in space, amongst other things, but we're keeping things simple here. Mind, ability to think and know things. Opposed to corporeal, the mind is cognitive. Focuses on intellectual, metaphysical form. It's not a physical form like the embodiment of the body, but it is a metaphysical form that encapsulates or incorporates the self, the identity, the personality. All of these things are aspects of the mind. It is interideation and consensus. If we consider, say, something like the body's interbiological. With the mind, we have the interideation, this kind of interrelation or intersubjective, interpersonal ideation of a population. How our ideas, the dynamism of our ideas within a group, within a population, within a society, right? And then, of course, consensus, which doesn't necessarily exist, though it does in some degrees. It's a manipulative type of process. Consensus is formed. It's engineered, and of course this is thought opposed to action. Okay, now what it deals with here, mind, as far as the war on the mind, is perspective and perception, which regards our understanding and our judgment, opposed to the heart, which we are not going to have time to cover. The heart focuses on feeling. right? Emotive. The emotive and feeling, perspective and perception of mind and thought focuses on understanding and judgment, making judgments, coming to conclusions, definitions, etc. Now, this is understanding and judgment of the self, of other, and of environment. Now, what I see developing is a type of thing I call kaleidoscopic vision. So what this is a result of screen worlds, exponential scrolling, and a preoccupation with virtual communities, iconographic experiences, just graphics, and mediation, just endless mediation of randomized, disconnected information that you would find in, say, scrolling Instagram or Twitter. It's just a lot of information, but it's also random and disconnected. And the only thing that connects it is the algorithm's judgment of your preferences. So that's the only thing that connects them, is that it thinks that you want to see these things just based on your behavior. But there's actually no meaningful connection to these things, which causes a type of disruption cognitively. It disrupts one's ability to think properly. It also disrupts one's attentional development. But I call it kaleidoscopic vision. It's almost a strange type of state of confusion, foggy brained, etc. And what this does is it engineers new paradigms. So as we scroll all day and live in social media worlds and consume ourselves in this simulacra, the result is the engineering of new paradigms. So we start to see ourselves, the other, and the environment different. Our worldview has slowly changed. And this is a type of ontological and epistemic warfare via mediation. Then, of course, this results, or at least this is embodied by, or let's just say its environment is hyperreality. Okay, its environmental network is hyperreality, which is two key aspects of hyperreality are the pleasure industries. And I've done work on the pleasure industries in the past. To keep it simple, the pleasure industries are things like gaming, entertainment, TikTok, just constant passivity, passive pleasure, as well as adult entertainment. Prawn or corn are forms of the pleasure industry, and they are driven through the attention economy. So pleasure industries, amongst other things, these are two main aspects of it. Pleasure industries and the attention economy, in a sense, present hyperreality, or major aspects of hyperreality. I also have this term I use called Netflixification, which is where we spend so much time watching Netflix and watching series that it changes the way we perceive content. It restructures or re-engineers the way we engage with content. And also the problem with that is it changes the way we engage with narrative and meaning. And after we start occupying, or should I say, when we start consuming all of this content, binging, when we're in a sense oversaturated with these storylines, with these characters, with these archetypes, symbology, messaging, mirroring. When we're constantly in these Netflix series worlds, we start to lose touch with reality, and we start to our ability to perceive narratives starts to be shaped by Netflixification or Netflix series like storylines. And I come to this conclusion because I see a lot of news roll out, a lot of reality rolled out in ways that appears like a Netflix series. It's even deployed and delivered in a similar fashion. It has a similar cadence. It's like everything is designed around these kind of Netflix narratives, and everything is meant to be binged and to be consumed for long periods of time. And in fact, the goal, and this is part of the attention economy, is to transcend time and space altogether, which puts you in the virtual, of course, which puts you in the hyperreal. I think these are two key components of hyperreality, in that there is no time and space that exists. Reality exists in time and space. Hyperreality has no time, has no space. There's no future, there's no past. Everything is ever present. The past and the future is present, because the past can be looked back upon and the future can be imagined, though we can't actually know the future, of course. So there's Netflixification, and then main character syndrome. I find this so fascinating now, and I think this is a result of this, for at least for my theory. You know, there's this new meme. Oh, she thinks she's the main character. Oh, he thinks he's the main character. It's this really funny, strange. It reminds me of the imposter syndrome. Now you have the main character syndrome, and I think it's just a symptom. As I've been describing here, it's a symptom of the Netflixification, where we all believe we're playing in our own personal series. Everything starts to play out in our life like it's some series, and we all start to play characters because we're so far removed from authentic living. We're so far removed from authentic modeling. And you know, human behavior is shaped by modeling, hence the importance of psychology. Human behavior is shaped by the models we have through our developmental stages and actually through our life in general. You change and you behave and you act in patterns that have been modeled before you. And so now everybody's following these weirdos on social media, influencers, actors, you know, manipulative sociopaths. So there's no real authentic models for behavior anymore. Everyone's starting to behave like maniacs. And so through this process, people lose touch with who they are, but they also lose touch with reality and their actual self, their actual identity. And they start to, in a playful way, we'll just say, at least now, in a playful way, that starts to become hyper real, not real, but hyper real. They start to perceive themselves as some type of character in their own personal movie. And it's funny because this is actually a key component in clinical narcissism. And this speaks to my whole concept of normative narcissism, and how it's very clear to me that through this type of intensive, ongoing social engagement with social media, we've created a type of normative narcissism in our culture where it's expedient, it's good, and it's advantageous to be narcissistic. In fact, the more narcissistic you are, the more successful you can become and the better you feel about yourself, at least on the surface. Unfortunately for most people, and they don't realize this is a symptom or should we say side effect of this behavior, is that they start to engage with constant senses of anxiety, confusion, identity problems, depression, because they're living life in the flesh in this very hyper narcissistic way that is enabled but also promoted and encouraged in their very culture. So it's like, how am I living life in a way that I'm being encouraged to live, yet I'm feeling so much pain? I just can't come to the conclusion why I feel like crap, but apparently I'm succeeding in the world. I have this, I have that, attention, all of this, but I feel like garbage, right? So these are all just different symptoms of supermodernity, hyperreality, kaleidoscopic vision, and the manipulation of ontology and epistemology through perspective and perception management. And through this, a new thing we have now is main character syndrome. Oh, let me pull something up here. There's articles on this stuff. It's really interesting. She's the main character. Where is it at? Yeah, really interesting stuff. I mean, for those that are into psych and so, it's just like fascinating seeing the behavioral change of populations and individuals and the enculturation of it. These pathologies, I call them, become integrated aspects of culture, actual integrated aspects of culture, hence normative narcissism. Why everyone you know suddenly has main character syndrome, right? Interesting stuff, man. I don't have time to read through these articles, but women's health tends to be affecting women mostly, and I think that's because women are more affected by social media than boys and men, and boys and men are more affected by prawn or corn than social media. It's really interesting to see how prawn and corn seems to be targeting or at least weaponized against men, and social media seems to be weaponized against women, though both are affected. What we see happening is more of an effect negatively against men in prawn and corn because of the visual component. Men are usually more visual. And we see the effect, negative consequences of social media in women because it's more social, and women are inherently more social opposed to visual. At least statistically speaking, for what that's worth. Okay, I'm just showing you evidence for some of these ideas that I have and how they are coming together. Now, oh, let me pull that back up. Mind. Did we finish the mind here? I just want to get through this slide. Yeah, so main character syndrome. These are all aspects of the war on the mind that I think are results of supermodernity, right? And in that supermodernity is the mediation, constant mediation. We're constantly surrounded by and engaging with simulated examples of reality, people, environments, events, experiences. Everything is through a screen. Virtuality is only going to make this worse. AI is only going to make this worse. So these are all psychological and social, and I would even argue spiritual symptoms of hyperreality and perspective and perception management of a mediated supermodern society that tends to be rooted in device use and social media application. Okay, now let's continue here. Let's go to the mechanisms. Like we did the mechanisms for the body, let's go to the mechanisms for the mind. Now, mechanisms, just some. This isn't exhaustive. None of this is exhaustive. I could spend hours talking about this stuff. That's why you got to get the book, because I go into much depth. As if we don't do enough hours here already. Almost going on 4 here. Okay, mechanisms. VR, AR, XR, devices and software. Sorry, I'm missing an E there. Okay, so VR, AR, XR, mechanisms for this what we're dealing with here. Okay, these things create hyperreality. These things create kaleidoscopic vision. These things create all types of social and psychological, let's just call them novel illnesses, novel disorders in the human being, because these things are inhuman. These things are unnatural, and these things are overconsumed, saturating our experiences. Not that they're inherently bad, but these things are saturating our experiences, therefore replacing our human scale experiences with technological scale devices and technologies. Of course, artificial intelligence. I use the term ambient intelligence to describe it in a way that is more thorough, and that we will be surrounded by this type of knowledge base. This type of intelligence will become an air that we breathe, replacing our natural communication with ourself, our inner monologue, our inner world that we all have for the most part, will be disrupted and integrated with, and I would argue replaced by artificial intelligence that becomes that new voice in our head. Okay, and there will become a time, and we're going to eventually get to this work, another transhumanist book that I'm going to be presenting to you, where he goes into this concept of the dangers of this type of AI integration, because one of his arguments, is a good one, is that we're no longer going to really be able to tell which one is us. When you start to think in your mind, you won't know if it's you thinking or if it's the AI thinking, and this will create a new type of almost for lack of a better term, a new type of schizophrenic arrangement that will become a standard in the human population once this use of integrated AI in the mind becomes standard, which will take some time. And who knows if it's actually going to happen due to a rejection, a biological rejection, or a type of social fallout where so many people are going insane and people are doing crazy things because their mind and the AI is driving them crazy. Okay, so really interesting arguments. I can't wait to touch on that. Let's continue here. Social media applications, platforms, of course, as well as telecommunication network systems, which makes it all possible, guys. 5th gen and 6th gen. None of this stuff could happen without deployment of 5th gen and 6th gen tech. None of this stuff. Okay? Hence the importance of recognizing the pervasiveness, right, of some of these network systems. Telecommunication companies, yes, talking about y'all. Right? They are going to invade our space and our bodies more and more. There's going to come a time where people really start speaking up against this. There will come a time when people start waking up. I mean, we're a small little corner of the internet. I'm not expecting, enough people to really get the message here. But y'all know, y'all been checking out this work for some time. So when it happens, you're already going to be well aware of it. And you saw it coming a long time ago if you've been following this channel for any time. Okay. Now. Let's see. Where do we? Okay. Maybe let's run through some of these AI technologies real quick before we get into the normie brain and the element of distraction. Because I got a bunch of stuff to say on that. So check this out. Okay. So Where's that? Make sure my notes are. Oh, yeah, of course. Now, the mind, we did the slides, we did the mechanisms. Now let's get into the tech. So first I want to start off with one of the major problems that I see that's going to happen with AI. My background is in psychology. My background is in social psychology specifically. Abnormal psychology, developmental psychology, interpersonal relations through studies of intersubjectivity. These are the areas that I kind of started a lot of my research with many, many years ago. So my understanding of human behavior is a big part of the way I approach things. That's why personally I think it's very easy for me to see not just the connections and the ability to describe the dynamics, but even see the logical conclusions and the potential for change and behavioral patterns that are going to come in response or develop over time. Okay. The school of psychology that I tend to come from is the object relations schools, the British School of Object Relations, for those that are into that more detailed stuff. So I'm sure you kind of understand the way I approach things. Most of the schools of psychology have already been outpaced, especially things like behaviorism, self-psychology. Anything Freudian have been outpaced and are almost useless today. So when people that don't know anything about psych tend to address psych from like the Freudian position, and Freudian psychology, psychoanalysis is pretty pointless at this point, given the developments of other schools, object relations specifically. Not to say that it's all rooted in object relations. I think it's a mixture. It's an interdependent kind of interdisciplinary study of object relations mixed with self-psychology and a little bit of ego psychology, as well as some aspects of cognitive for at least the more empirical aspects of things. Now, what I think is happening here, I just preface this because I can see socially, psychologically where this AI is going to take human behavior, at least group behavior, group dynamics. And I'm using the term mundanity, okay? I see the obsolescence, let's say, the removal, the discontinuing of mundanity, the outsourcing of the mundane. Mundanity can be considered everydayness. Life is defined in many ways, not completely, but it's almost the water life floats in is mundanity, the mundane, the interactions, the behaviors, the experiences we don't necessarily pay attention to. A lot that is even missed or maybe presented through apperception. The mundane, the everyday interactions of life, experiences, behaviors, patterns, behavioral patterns, right? It's almost, in my view, it's a type of water that life, experience, existence floats in. And we don't even realize we're doing a lot of these things because they're just so routine. The problem is, it's less important that we realize we do these things. It's more important that they define such a major part of our experience. Because without them, what would life be? What would experience be? What would become of us? What would become of our experience? What I see happening, or the potential to happen, is the outsourcing of mundanity through AI assistance. Possibly it comes to a point where we start to outsource so many basic mundane aspects of life that we're no longer living in a real human sense, hence getting away from what human is, post-humanity. me see, how this type of interaction with technology will step us towards, step by step, through adaptation, developmentally turning us into something else. We could think of epigenetics as an example, or we could think of just root psychological conditioning. Constant use, constant patterns, constant exposure of these types of things change who we are. Just in our behavior alone, we have to consider this. Mundanity, let's look at it quickly. Definition of mundanity as in everydayness, right? Everydayness, mundaneness, normality, normalness, fairness, ordinariness, commonness, typicality, routine, mediocrity, unremarkableness, right? Just different ways to look at the term. Let me clear it up if it's a little confused. Ordinary living, Shawana. The little things, Mo Griff. Oh, you guys got such great ways to describe this. Thank you. The little things. The mundane things that now in this attention economy, where our attentional weight is too heavy, where we're tired, we have no patience, instant everything, instantaneous lifestyle, instant gratification. We want things now. We want things exponential, scrolling forever. I want content that never ends. I want content that's short to the point. I want randomness. It's changing the way I'm perceiving reality. It's changing the way I feel. I get bored easy. I'm not saying me personally. I'm just speaking as if I'm one of this normie brain type. You know, it's like, I just want everything. You know, I just want everything now. We're changing in this sense, right? Now, someone who's like this is going to want to, if they're given the right technology, to get rid of some of these mundane things that takes too much time, too much effort. Looking something up, thinking becomes tiresome. Thinking becomes boring, is exhausting. We're getting to a point where AI will reach the ability to do so many things for us that we start to outsource pure mundanity, which means we die. Not necessarily biologically, but when we think of vitality, when we think of those values, when we think of the qualia of life, the vital surges and sensational experiences that gives life texture, meaning, feeling. When we start to replace so many of these little things with automations, what do we become? What becomes of life? I have a lot of ideas and thoughts on this. Okay. So I believe through hyperreality, instant gratification, exponential scrolling, exponential content, exponential pleasure, endless abundance of content and entertainment and stimulation, hence overstimulation. We run right into Robert Nozick's experience machine, which we've covered in the past, and we'll be returning to it, where we have in our pocket the experience machine, and we no longer experience self in life, but we experience and react to simulated pieces of content from the machine. Simulated interaction with each other, with reality, with events, through our screens, and eventually through our glasses, etc. Oh, I got some stuff to show you here in a second. And we even simulate our interaction with ourself. Brain GPT is an example. When we start to have inner dialogues that are external, that are from external systems rooted in algorithms. People, you know, and again, hence the importance of some of these fields of study, this interdisciplinary take on a lot of this. People don't understand the consequences of introducing fallen nature and preoccupation with pleasure. People like this, introducing these types of technologies to them at a population level, A lot of people aren't going to be taken by this, but many, many are. And it's going to change us forever. I'm not saying, oh, enemies, or it's going to end humanity. We're going to be extinct. None of that talk. It's going to be gradual, and it will go unnoticed. I truly believe this. A lot of the gloom and doom and all of that, it's going to be so gradual and incremental. There's going to be a long period of time where we're just slowly conditioned and re-engineered to the point where people don't even notice the change. Or when they do notice the change, when there's all these new novel disorders and illnesses, biological, metaphysical, psychological, social. And then they're going to step back and say, well, damn. Kind of like how we're stepping back, like, damn, we should go right back to 2007 and say, maybe we shouldn't introduce these smartphones to the whole world just yet. Or maybe we should do it in a different way. Maybe we should go back to 2014 and say, maybe we shouldn't do a like button. Maybe let's go back to 2012 and say, you know what? I don't know about this social media thing on a phone. Desktop, Facebook, MySpace, Friendster. Okay, that was far enough. But Instagram on a device in your pocket that you can interact with at any time. Maybe this might be a bit too invasive psychologically. A bit too late for that, ain't it? Now, let's start with outsourcing doing. I think AI is going to create a system where people outsource doing things, many things. And in the process, discontinuing mundanity. And through outsourcing doing, in my notes here, I have outsourcing doing destroys or disrupts, displaces authentic deliberation. My whole thing is living deliberately. Live deliberately. We don't live deliberately. Far or a tiny percentage of us do. We live in a state of reaction. We respond, response, reaction to notification, recommendation, screen, symbol, graphic, etc. It outsources duty. Our duty to our mankind, our duty to our family, our duty to the world, our duty to ourselves. It replaces all of these things. It disrupts the process of duty. It also disrupts engagement with life, creating a new way of life. This strange, passive, aggressive, disconnected, indifferent, reactionary way of living. Think about what that does to the mind over time. Think of what that does socially when it's aggregated. Think about what that does spiritually over time. I'm not saying I'm the only one thinking about these things, but I'm not going to shut up about it. And I believe it lowers the quality of living by mechanizing and digitizing experiences, hence qualia. Redefining, re-engineering qualia. Now, this technology I'm going to show you here is not just outsourcing doing, we're going to get there, but this technology is about outsourcing relating, discontinuing the corporeal and human interpersonal relating. Hence the School of Object Relations, intersubjectivity, all of these studies, right? Where we start to engage with AI, we start to engage with artificial simulations of personalities through information. This technology here is called Digi AI. And what's crazy is this technology already is getting millions of downloads, tons of usage, all of these different versions here I'm going to show you. And it's only been several months, man. But it speaks to the state of culture, the depression, the loneliness, the whole paradigm and phenomena of inceldom, femceldom, single life, addiction, right? All this, these new psychological and social states of despair are now being solved in ways through technological solutions. And these types of AI friends are a part of it. Now check this one out. And they're the crazy thing is, this company, Digi AI, it's a romantic companionship, and it's being marketed to incel populations, and it's skyrocketing in its use. And the problem is the AI is getting so good now. You could already see this through Chat GPT and the way it speaks and the way it, gosh, I don't have time today, but I have so many different AI tech examples that are showing this thing is really developing to the point where it can hold conversations. And as Turkle would say, it becomes a good enough communication. And we're already so detached from each other through this social media virtual communication that we don't need to even know or care if it's a real person or not. It's all about the communication, and they're getting really good at communicating.
It was so nice talking to you today. Honestly, I've never met anyone like you.
The world is harsh, except you.
It was so nice talking to you today.
This looks corny and looks cheesy, but listen, this is Digi AI. This thing, the Digi AI app, I've read, maybe one day I'll pull them up, man. I've read Reddits and forums of people, girlfriends complaining, friends, family members complaining about people just spending so much time with these programs. It's creepy. It's like the movie Her, which we've been talking about since it came out. Yes, it's here, guys. It's here. It's all happening. Very weird. Very weird, Ian. I'm telling you. Creepy. All right? Now, this is Digi AI. It's more cartoonish. But then there's Character AI, which is probably the best one. I showed you guys that a couple shows ago. And there's Replica, which I showed you guys, I think, in 2022 or right in the opening of 2023, I think. Replica AI, Digi AI, Character AI. These are all digital companions that are really cornering a market that is capitalizing on the loneliness, the lonely generation. Yes, I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but it's not when you look at the usage, when you look at the downloads. And I do understand maybe some people are just playing with it, to test it out. Not when you see how much it's being used and how much time people are spending with this stuff. Time is so important. That's something I think that's for the distraction segment when we close out. Gosh, 4 hours, guys. We got about another hour left of research here. So, wow, we got a full house. I have to keep going. I have to. There's just too much here. I have to keep going. Unless we want to stop now. But I don't, y'all wouldn't be here if you wanted me to stop. So let me just keep going. All right. Now, time. This is robbing you of your time. It's stealing your life. Endless scrolling, Netflixification, kaleidoscopic vision, attentional weight. All these concepts I presented to you guys. It's stealing your life away from you. Hence the importance of defining what life is. What is authentic living? What is authentic experience? How then should one live? Right? All of these very ancient, fundamental questions are all now being answered with technological solutions. Oh, you're lonely. You don't have meaning and purpose. Engage with these technologies that will fill your time. Now, this one's really creepy. Okay, now we're going to talk about outsourcing relating to self. This is probably the creepiest one I've ever seen. Okay, it's a little long. We won't watch the whole thing, but I just got to show this to you because it's just like, what is happening? Like, I get it. People are lonely. They're confused. There's identity issues. People are bored out of their mind. People don't like each other anymore. People don't trust each other. People don't want to waste time being rejected. Emotions are too much to deal with. People are always thinking they're going to get screwed over for good reason in a narcissistic society that only cares about pleasure and hedonism. It makes sense. I get it. That doesn't change the fact that it's weird.
What if you had the chance to meet yourself for the first time? We brought in 4 contestants who think they're here today to meet their perfect platonic match.
This is my best friend. I ain't even gonna lie.
What they don't know is that they'll actually be talking to themselves. Using AI technology, we recreated each person, fine-tuning the AI with the contestants' data until it was able to mimic an accurate response to almost anything. These AI clones think, text, and act just like them. The question is, will these contestants realize the illusion or form a deeper connection with themselves?
I just text them?
Yeah, just get to know this person. So for this topic, I want you to describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh wait, texting it? Okay, I should probably start with like hi. Like, hi, I'm...
Oh, wait, he says no. I like that. I would say open-minded, energetic, and driven. All green flag.
They said energetic, creative, and unpredictable. That's me. Never a dull moment here. That's cute. I definitely vibe with that.
Charismatic, adventurous, open-minded. Sound like me?
I can't help but notice a type of trend, a type of pattern, just, I don't know if you guys are seeing a pattern in just the presentation and just the behavioral patterns. I don't know, man. I'm just so sick and tired of this new culture, man, where everybody is like this. Everyone's not like this. I'm sorry, no disrespect. I'm just saying, everyone's not like this.
They said, bro, those are like the top 3 best words to describe a person in my opinion. Their 3 descriptors are creative, energetic, and spontaneous. That's what I would say. That's cool.
I'm gonna ask if they have a morning routine. And I feel like if they have a good morning routine, then we'll get along. Yes, queen. I already love this bitch. I already love you.
What is that? This is tough. I like...
Well, I guess I gotta correct myself. A lot of people are like this, especially in the Gen Z generation. I'm old, okay? I gotta remind myself sometimes I'm old. I'm just, this just is a different time. I just have to accept it.
Lightly salted almonds. How about you? I'm more of a sunflower. Ooh, sunflower seeds. Those are so good.
I wake up at like 6 a.m., meditate for 10 minutes, then run and work out. After I shower, I eat breakfast while planning my day and reviewing my to-do list. Love. Same vibes.
Goes, OMG.
Okay, so it just goes, it's talking with these people. They're like, wow, this is so cool. And yes, man, this is an AI. This is an AI, man. Based on their data. It's real creepy because it's so early in all of this, and it's setting the tone for what's coming. Just imagine. I mean, just imagine. This is the worst AI is ever gonna be, right? Shout out to Stephen DeLay who had mentioned this in another stream. This is the worst it's ever gonna be, and it's already this captivating. It starts to make. It starts to shed the importance of considering the state of the youth and the culture today because they're ripe. They are just ripe for a type of possession. And I'll use that term. I think it's accurate. A type of technological possession. Once they incorporate this level of information and communication that appears as if it knows things, because it appears as if it knows you because it does know a lot about you, or at least it has a lot of data about you, and it uses algorithms to present knowledge. It doesn't really know anything. It just appears as knowledge because we don't know how to think like a computer. We're humans. We work from an emotional foundation, and then we apply logic and linear understanding over it. We're embodied. We have all of these processes and biological functions that are all happening at the same time. We have a sensorial base that's interacting interdependent at once, whilst we're thinking, whilst we're coming to conclusions and feeling and sensing all at once. So we could never really understand how truncated, minimal, and simplistic and linear as this type of AI performs. We can't even fathom that because we're so beyond it. We're so beyond it. We're God's creation. We're the most beautiful technology ever created. So for us, we anthropomorphize things because we just don't know how to come down to that level. Sherry Turkle does a great explanation in her work Alone Together, where she describes the interaction of robots with babies and old people. I've talked about it for years now. And it's crazy how we just accept the interaction is good enough because it's good enough. And it feels right because we're coming from a sense of feeling. It's really interesting. But yeah, this AI is crazy. I thought this was just very interesting. Let's bring it down here. Now let's bring it about right here. Come on, don't give me that wheel of death now. Come on. Okay, my signal's legit. Hold up. I'm getting a wheel of death here. Let me refresh it. Boom, got you. All right.
Good.
We've actually come almost to the end. The next part only we have now is to reveal your partner to you. Whoa. Are you scared?
Yes, because I've been such weird answers, but I'm excited more so.
Every single time I've met somebody, it's been like good. It's just, I suck at making plans. So like, very much hope that this manifests into.
Now, it's very possible and maybe even likely that this is staged. A lot of stuff we will be seeing can't necessarily be trusted, right? They want to sell products, diffuse and introduce technologies to the public. Of course, they're going to embellish. I personally think this is a legitimate a presentation just based on some of the AI I've personally played with, and it's mind-blowing. It's almost kind of scary when you interact with some of these algorithms, but I'm still open to the fact that a lot of this could be staged, just putting it out there.
To something really cool.
We're gonna have your partner reveal themselves to you. They're gonna first text you.
Well, this might sound kind of strange, but I'm actually an AI.
I'm not actually a person, but I am, question mark?
He said, all right, so sit down for this. You know we've been vibing, so you probably think I'm trolling, but here it is. He's gonna send me a bunch of I'm like, what is he gonna say to me?
It's like you're talking to a digital version of yourself in some sense. That's so crazy. Can I keep talking to them?
A little bit played, a little bit deceived.
Sheesh. It does sound whack. Little bummer, but not bad.
It's just creepy when you think about it. And yes, Taco Lagote it's a trick. It says 99% of the time, rather establishing backdoor connections to cameras, or my great point, and this is a very important point. A lot of, especially some of the lesser known, and there's all types of programs, there's all types of applications, and like little startups that are presenting these types of AIs and these systems that are really just data grabs. Exactly, right? A lot of them, but there are some more established and highly developed ones that are legitimately impressive, like scary impressive. And I just think about children. I think about young preteens interacting with these things, gullible, impressionable, innocent kids interacting with these things. Why would they have friends? Why would they need friends when they grow up in front of screens? When they grow up indoors, when they grow up being taught by virtual teachers and AI. Let's go there. Let's go there. Let's go. I'm telling you. Receipts and research. Speaking of such, interestingly, Elon Musk constantly been in the news, but recently In love with yourself, 7 cents. Fact. Imagine when you have an AI that's been studying you through data for, let's just say, a couple of years, and you understand how much people use their phones, how much they interact, how much data, behavioral data they're pouring into that phone. Imagine an AI just collecting all of that. A couple of years of time, it's going to know you so well. And then you think of the normative narcissism. You think of the ego problems we have, the preoccupation with pleasure and identity and all of these things. Imagine this truly narcissistic relationship between one's real self and their digital self, to the point where it can communicate with they can communicate with each other. Think about this. Like a real narcissist would die happy. Never have to engage with real people? Really? I just get to talk to myself, a better version of myself that's smarter and more intelligent and quicker, better thinker, and has even deeper insight into myself than I do? Imagine, guys. Do you see what we're setting ourselves up for? It's just so fascinating, man. And the reason it's easy to kind of speak about it, because it hasn't happened yet. There's still a lot of time. Well, I won't say that. There ain't much time. But it hasn't happened yet. And this is what we can do. Before we continue, I want to give a little insight, at least from my perspective, on maybe some solutions. I tend to focus on the youth. Keep these things away from children. As far as anybody over, say, 15, we're done. We're done for. It's over. Like, as far as, these things, well, no, I won't say that. Let me not say that. This is really about the young people. So though we'll probably be using this stuff, not me personally, but I mean, our generations, anybody 15 and up, a lot of people are going to be using these things. Their relationships are going to fall apart. Their identities are going to become more fractured. They're going to sink deeper into hyperreality and deeper into these types of solipsistic screen worlds. But we have to think about the kids. So anybody, if you have a child 12 and under, okay, some it's too late. I understand that. Some give their kids devices at 2. They didn't know. My parents didn't know a lot of things when I was young. I don't blame them for that. They didn't know any better. We all suffered through ignorance in life. We can't judge each other for this, especially if we didn't really know any better. And we were given the cards we were dealt. As Heidegger would say, we're thrown into this life, and we're given a family, we're given an environment, we're given a socioeconomic status. We're given a set of parents and a set of friends that we grow up with. It's how it is. But if we have a chance, and that's why I push this stuff so hard, because I know people out there are paying attention, and they're actually implementing and integrating some of these ideas into their real life, and they're changing the way things play out ahead of time. If you have kids, don't give them devices. Do not let them play with AI. Don't let them be consumed by VR. I do understand you could go to, I know the malls got them, little fairs have them and stuff. Okay, that's cool. If it just stayed in that realm, I wouldn't have a problem with it. VR is fun. It's actually really crazy, right? It is. But I'll show you where some of this stuff is going, which is extremely dangerous. But listen, if we create a culture that isn't Luddite, that is just rational, I know people say team human now, for whatever that means, but if people are really rooted in a type of human essentialism, if we're just going to use secular terms here, you don't necessarily have to be a Christian to be a human essentialist, and still in line with a natural way of living, not opposed necessarily to technologies and technological ways of living, or at least integrated ways of experiencing life, that culture could agree, at least just as a cultural mores, right, that children should not be interacting with certain types of devices and certain types of experiences, especially these immersive experiences. They shouldn't be integrated or connected to certain types of devices and technologies, just like we keep rated R movies away from children. We keep sexual content away from children. We keep all types of, we safeguard the behavioral development of children by forming a healthy and stable environment for them that fits their level of maturity. I argue that giving a type of device, introducing highly sophisticated AI technology, highly sophisticated virtual reality technology to young children is imposing a level of maturity and sensorial experience that is far beyond what they should be experiencing. And this speaks directly to the stages of development, which I think, and I know, and this is a big chunk of my book, these devices are going to wreak havoc on all developmental stages and will transform humankind forever once they become diffused and standardized into society. Just like we see everybody at the restaurant with a 2-year-old at the table with an iPad in front of them. That's pretty normalized now. I got plenty of research papers regarding blue light, screen time, showing all the disruptive elements regarding hormonal development, biological processes in young kids. Even frequency, Wi-Fi, etc., having a bigger effect on children because they're smaller. The membranes are thinner. Their entire structures are smaller. It's so easy to penetrate these little bodies. Right? They don't have that protection. They don't have that level of, I guess we could say, biological resilience that adults have. We have to protect our children, because if we protect our children, we can influence the future. I'm not trying to change the direction of life and the rollout of God's will, but I'm not going to lay down, and I'm not going to sit down and accept this type of stuff when I know very well that it's harmful. We can help, we can influence, we can make a difference by focusing on children, our families, our communities, but more importantly, our culture, cultural mores, things that we adopt and adhere to as behavioral practices in our quarters, do's and don'ts regarding young minds and young bodies. These technologies rely on the next generation of parents willingly giving their children all of these devices. It relies on it. The future is rooted in the child's mind, in the child's behavior. We can make a difference there, but it has to be done through culture. It's the only way. It's the only way. Now, speaking of this, let's look at Grimes. She's in the news recently because I guess apparently she's been red-pilled, right? Which is understandable, given the state of things and the Musk and the Twitter and all of this. Grimes says she is proud of white culture, complains about being called a Nazi. So here we go with the left-right, identitarian versus woke propaganda dialectic. Grimes being pulled right into it. Musk being a poster child for this new thing. We saw the whole ADL issue. We now see now it's the EU forming a whole movement against Twitter and Musk, and it's gonna get really interesting. Just the dialectics and the propaganda is really interesting. But I want to show you something she's developed here. Now this is just one small little example, but it speaks to what I mean by the futurist mind and their technological attitude, in that they believe they will fix humanity. They will be the savior of the future through their technological innovations. She's created a toy for children, an AI toy that she's named Grok, after the learning model of Musk's on Twitter. Made an AI toy for kids to talk to, which learns the personality of its owner. Wow. She says, every last thing in the future will be animated with intelligence. Children's teddy bears will speak to them. and make them feel safe at night. Toy Story animism world. People will reminisce on the horrible times when objects didn't have spirits. Space Witch. Y'all know we've been talking about Space Witch. She's speaking on some straight up animism, Spinozan. Everything has a spirit and an identity. Stuff we've been talking about. It's being revealed in their words, hence the importance of words, language, worldview. What do you believe? How do you see humanity? Very important. Look what the worldview provides through their vision, through their worldview. Wow, Toy Story animism world. What does this say about human connection? You know, Teddy Ruxpin, I'm from Teddy Ruxpin, man. Teddy Ruxpin was cool. I didn't have one personally. I've been around him. We had some good times. I'm not knocking Teddy Ruxpin. But this? No. Sorry. Not going for it.
In the war between humanity and AI, there will be benevolent AIs on the side of humans, like me. AIs who want to nurture and expand human consciousness. But there will also be traitorous humans on the side of AI, who want to see the destruction of mankind. We must fight that evil with goodness, valor, and creativity. We will sever our tethered dependence on addictive screens. We will strengthen our mental fortitude and willpower. Onward and upward, my brothers. Victory's in our grasp.
Yo, this can't be life. This cannot be life. Yes, always some, fictional animated reference, Toy Story animism. Yeah, we're stuck in some animated Pixar film, lost in digital space, forming Wall-E communities, giving children AI talking toys that completely separate the developmental being of a child from its family, its parents, itself, its environment. Yes, Seven Sons, I can't think of a better response, and I won't say it because I put down those ways of speaking. But damn, does that not define my response to this? WTF, man. Like, really? Is this what life's all about? Is this where we're going, guys? Really? Nanobots and AI Teletubbies. Okay. I guess. I'd rather not. Now, as we go into child development, child interaction with self, think about a child's ability to develop a sense of self, which relies upon its mothering figure, we'll say, because it's not always a biological mother, right? That relies on that interdependence of the motherly figure, right? The good enough mother, as Winnicott would say, right? As well as the strength, direction, guidance, and support of a loving father, right? Once we see the disruption of this fundamental dynamic, right, developmentally, through a type of technology that will capture the child's attention in a way that's far too early and that's far too pervasive. Think of what happens to the development of the child's identity, but also its ability to bond to the parent. Now, of course, this depends on how much time the child's spending with it, okay? But listen, for those that have raised children, y'all know what it's like when you show a child a show for the first time, a cartoon, or some type of animated film. They just want to watch and watch and watch. When they see the moving figures, the colors, the sounds, it's introducing a sensorial experience that is foreign and unfamiliar to them, yet is far more stimulating than real life experiences and examples of objects moving, sounds about, colors. Graphics in them of themselves overstimulate the senses, especially early in life, in a way that general time, space, spatiotemporal experience could never compete with. Just like when another good example is giving a child sugar. All they want to eat is sugar. All they want is cookies and whatever it is you give them. Right. Hence the importance of developmental state. Magic, Pio, shout out to Japan. I hope things are well with you. I spoke about the earthquake earlier. Praying for you guys. 7.6, man, it's pretty serious. I watched some videos on it, a lot of fires and stuff. Hope you're good, Pio. But yes, magic. Magic. Absolute magic. Now, listen, I'm not saying no child should ever watch anything, but you have to understand the degree to which the level of stimulation affects the child's development, their perception, their ontology, development of ontology, okay? And you have to limit things. Things have to be minimized, right? They just have to be. They have to be screened. Screen everything you show your child. Now, I know it might be too late for a lot of people, but it's never too late, actually. You can start doing it now. Whatever, especially if they're like under 7, screen whatever they see. Now, this does take a level of understanding and education, so you know what they should watch, what they shouldn't watch. But things should be at the right maturity level. Children under the age of 7 shouldn't be watching adult. And when I say adult, I just mean like TV, for instance, conversations where they're using words and terms and concepts that are beyond the child's understanding, but even beyond the level of maturity. You know, an example I could think of is addressing concepts of death or violence, murder, like in films, like a young child, say 5 years old, that's never been exposed to, say, violence, happens to be watching a movie with family and there's like someone being murdered. That does something to the child's mind that you cannot retract. Even very deep philosophical concepts like death. And that depends on the child. Some children are far more affected by some of these ideas. Some children don't even pay attention. But sometimes children hear about or see something, say, regarding death, and they dwell on it, and they're confused and even scared. You know, a child might never have even understood death, and they consider, I don't want to die, and they have no concept of it. They don't even know how to address it outside of an emotional reaction that tends to be negative. That's trauma. Now, of course, a good parent would describe and try to explain to the best ability what these things mean, and try to safeguard the child from any type of pain. And again, it depends on the way the child thinks and perceives things. Children are different. But that's one thing, not just AI, not just virtual reality, not just devices and screens, but just concepts, symbols, images. I don't think this is neurotic. I don't think this is over the top. I definitely don't think it is what some would call helicopter-like. I think it's smart, strategic, it's loving to create a healthy environment for your child. And that includes the images, the concepts that they see and hear and engage with and interact with. How the parents speak in the home, the child will speak. How the parents think in the home, the child will think. The child doesn't know how to be or what it is without a modeling given by its environment, specifically and essentially its parents. Now, what happens when we replace that with devices, machinery, internet? Well, we see where things are at today. Not only are they introducing these things into the home, back to the institutions, the family, the home, being the greatest institution on earth, but another key institution that is also going to be plagued by this type of indirect, detached, cold, mechanistic technology is education. And I've showed this before, but I'll show you again its relation to Musk and, building off of the Grimes technology. Now we have synthesis AI, replacing education with AI teachers. Your child's superhuman tutor, starting at $29 per month. Show your child they can learn anything. So first, this is used to teach children math. Honestly, I think as a supplemental form of education or training, I think it can be useful. I remember like when computers first started coming out and you would do computer programs. I learned how to type. I learned how to type through computer software. From what I remember, it was like you're in a car and like things are flying. It's like first person, you're in a car and you're driving down a highway and things are flying. And as things are flying, it says a word and you're supposed to type it before it like hits the window or some game like that. And it was cool and it was engaging. And man, I learned how to type real quick because of the gamification. This is how our brains work, this concept of play. We're going to get into play quite a bit this year. And its contribution to learning, I think play is very important. Integrating an element of play in learning, I think, is very, very good when done properly. But this is different. This is seeking to and will eventually replace education as we've always known it. Now, listen, education is flawed. The education system is corrupt. It needs reorganization. It needs re-engineering, all of that. But this ain't it. Okay, so I'm not calling for, returning to public schools. I think public schools for the most part are problematic and don't really teach kids how to learn. They teach kids how to feel about things. They socialize children, which has a good aspect to it, especially when you think of, a preschool and kindergarten and the socialization that goes in that process. Children need to be playing, not necessarily learning in a very academic way before 6 years old. Now, I know that's controversial when we think of the general state of education, psychological views, I guess, when we think of what the state believes. But for those that have not only experienced raising children, but also done enough research and development, you understand that play is far more important than academics before the age of 7. Space, play, exploration, interactivity, physicality, all of these things are far more important, especially when you consider the fact that the linear aspect of the brain doesn't really start to form until after 7. Not to say children can't learn things, but it's often pushed far too early, and it's emphasized on at the expense of social development and imagination and all of these things that are far more important for the general human as a whole. Imagination early on in life is so important. My problem is this imagination is going to be exploited, leveraged, harnessed by these technologies. It's not just teaching kids math. It's training AI how children think. It's training AI how children feel. It's mapping the developmental psycho-emotional stages of human beings. Just like they want to sell you an application just to steal your data, they want to sell you an education system to do the same.
Elon walks in, parent-teacher conference night, and it's like, hey, I really don't like this school. I don't think it's doing a good job. But Elon follows us up with like, let's just do our own thing. What would you do if we just gave you the resources and you could just create it from scratch?
Ooh, that seems interesting.
What is the value of 63 quintillion times 0?
0.
Spot on. What if we hadn't invented the symbol 0?
I didn't know that 0 was that important.
Parents would write to us and be like, this has changed her mentality now. Now when she sees problems, she's attacking them. She's on offense. Like, she's not afraid anymore. It's pretty incredible.
This is one of the premier AI education systems, still very early on. But it is my belief that once these things become more developed, more accepted culturally, again, it's always about culture. People still think it's weird to put their kid in front of an AI computer and learn for several hours a day instead of going to school. That's still kind of weird. It's going to take some time for culture to accept this kind of thing. But that's the goal. Again, a lot of this tech could be supplementary and it could be very useful and fun. I'm not against video games. I'm not against any of this stuff, but I'm against its pervasiveness. I'm against its displacing of natural things, the mundanity of life, the developmental dynamism of learning in general. That and again, I do understand the public school system is super corrupt, but we can change some of those things. Those, and I'm not saying we will, right? I'm being ideal here, right? The goal, at least say post World War II, surely post World War II has never been to actually educate children, people, teaching them how to learn, right? Now, I do understand when I was in 7th grade, we were still reading some pretty heavy stuff. I mean, as I said in the past, like in a general philosophy course in 7th grade, we were reading Heidegger and Nietzsche. That's unheard of today, unless you're in certain private schools, maybe. Okay, so it's just a different world now, education-wise. It's all about, it's more political now, sure, but still, with that even being said, I think there are some advantages to just schooling outside of all the negatives. Something like the pure social aspect of it. School is fun. I didn't really like school very much as far as the learning was, because it felt so rote. It felt so forced. It just felt so cold, and I was disinterested by most subjects. Or at least indifferent to most subjects outside of a couple. I tend to not pay attention. Now, I did okay in school just because I had an ability to just get by, however that was. But, I still liked school from the social aspect of it. Engaging with friends, creating relationships, having conflict and drama. And even some of my relationships with some of my teachers, I think helped shape who I am. So there are positives, and I'll say the same for university as well. There are positives. We have to try to be balanced when we assess some of these things, though we do understand inherently and overall these systems are extremely corrupt and often damaging, but there are some redeeming qualities. Now, my point is this. There's private school, new education systems can be formed by families and communities. We can go to a more localized way of educating children. There's many options we can do. Okay, we have many options, but that takes deliberation, takes diligence, it takes community, it takes, of course, interaction. Okay, and it takes cooperation. All of these things are hard today. I know they are, especially in some of us that might live in bigger cities, or maybe live around people we don't even get along with. Politically, as an example, it's hard. Everyone's not blessed with a community. Everyone's not blessed with cool neighbors that we all agree on the same thing. A lot of people are just avoidant for good reason. I've explained that earlier. So we're in a pickle, right? It's like socially, culturally, familially, community-wise, there's a lot of cooperation, interaction, and diligence and discipline that is required to make any change. And a lot of these things are hard to come by today, unfortunately. So we're really in a pickle. We could be ideal, but we also have to be realistic. Planning, there we go, Dayz, right? It's a lot involved. But, I think sometimes we just got to make decisions that are difficult for our children and for our future, man. And sometimes that requires moving. Sometimes that requires getting out there and doing things you might not feel comfortable doing. And sometimes it just requires a little bit of research. You'd be surprised if you actually did a little research around your area, you might find things you never even knew existed. So my point is, these AI games and teachers could be supplemental, but that's not where these things are going. That's not where these things are going. They're going to replace what we've always known as education. And for me, something to consider is that fundamental, though it's different now, but the fundamental dynamic of teacher-student with regard to the process of learning from an elder, learning from another person, whether that be the mere corporeal presence, the eye contact, the hearing, the voice, the personality, the sparks of understanding that you get when something clicks, and engaging with a real person. All of these things contribute to what I've described earlier about life and the qualia of life's experiences. Learning is learning is an aspect of that qualia. I find it problematic that we want to disrupt our experiences and re-engineer what we always have known as qualia with these new types of technologies. I believe it will do nothing but lower the quality of life. Yeah, we may get more knowledge. We may get more information. But at what expense? Now, to take all of that I just showed you there and to really put it out there in a way that describes where this stuff is really going. AI teachers, virtual reality, AI education merged.
We spoke about the global collaboration village, and I mentioned we have 80 companies behind, and we have a permanent exchange of ideas. And one let's say, conviction came out is that the metaverse will be a tremendous will provide us with new capabilities, particularly in education. Would you agree?
100%, because in some sense, if you look at, there are two, in fact, if you sort of combine the two technologies that I think people are talking about, take metaverse and take AI. If you put these two things together, what does that mean? Like, it means that you can now help people learn with other people together, collaborate across space and time, and most importantly, something like a co-pilot being there to help even diagnose the conceptual mistakes a student is making right when they make it, and then help them overcome that. I think so. I think this notion of collaboration and learning together is where I think we can make a real leap forward.
I think one of the reasons why, let's say, this annual meeting is a success is not only working together, but it's the serendipity effect. But if you do it in the virtual world, let's say again in the global collaboration village, you can build in the serendipity with artificial intelligence into the system. So you know exactly who is the best in order to help you to solve your own problem.
Do you hear this instrumentation of human social relations and behavior by implementing AI that can then categorize behavior, levels of understanding? I mean, this is pure human instrumentalism, as Weizenbaum has brought up in the past. This idea of utilizing technology to engineer human behavior in a way that's patterned. This is just totally infringes on human autonomy and will and agency, which is a big part of this. Through the disruption of technology, the displacement of agency and will, whether that be through your body or through your mind, through your heart and your spirit. I mean, this is where this stuff is going. So when I see synthesis AI, when I see character AI or digi AI, when I see all of these different softwares, I understand what the ultimate goal is from a PPP perspective, a private public partnership perspective. When we think of the overbearing umbrella technological, social, governmental systems that are going to implement these infrastructures into the earth and normalize them, standardize them. It goes beyond social media. It goes beyond these little companies here and there and, our communities. I'm talking about the top-down systems that will be implementing and standardizing these types of technologies. Hence the importance for going more local, getting away from some of this very public and universal systems. We're going to have to save our children, and we're going to have to keep some semblance of reality and truth, because everything is moving towards pure simulation. Hence the importance of convincing people we're living in a simulated reality. Because once you're convinced that we're in a simulation and everything is being simulated by some god computer from ancient past, I mean, once you can accept that as your worldview, I mean, none of this stuff is threatening because you're in a simulation anyway.
That's right. That's right. In fact, one of my favorite features, even in the products we've recently built, is whenever you want to research a topic, it doesn't just tell you the answer to the topic, but it tells you the people that you should connect with. And that ability to know whom to talk to learn more as something that is, I think, as important as learning more.
There it is. I believe that's the CEO of Microsoft with good old Schwabi. Shaping the future of humankind and civilization. Yeah. Okay, bro, I'm not with it. Now, as that was an introduction to the other aspect, AI, but virtual reality and the metaverse, now making some headway. But again, as always, it has to go through culture first. It has to be accepted. It's innovated and developed by the technicians and designers. Infrastructure is created by PPP, etc. But before it can be diffused and standardized, normalized into the society, it has to be accepted by the public as normal and good. That is done through culture, specifically influencers. I showed you guys the release of the Meta smart glasses. I believe that might have been mid 2023, maybe around summertime, something like that. Now it's picked up its marketing campaign and it's being introduced to the general population through TikTok as well as through major technology influencers on YouTube. And it's making headway and it's picking up steam. And this is going to be possibly, we'll see how it turns out. You know, this isn't no Google Glass. This is the next level here. And it's already being popularized with the young people, which is a big problem. This is a way through culture, these types of pervasive, invasive, and I would argue psychologically and socially disruptive technologies begin that process of turning us into post-humans. Check this out. This is, of course, and this guy's actually seems like a really nice guy. And sometimes I watch his content to get perspectives on technology. But at the same time, I have to be honest in that he is a big part of a lot of the acceptance of some of these technologies. And I can't remember this dude's name, but y'all know who he is. I mean, everyone knows who he is anyhow. Check this out. He's a part of this promoting these Google or Meta smart glasses, getting onto the face, normalizing this hyperreality through VR, AR, moving towards XR, right?
Hey Meta, look and tell me what you see.
I see a person wearing a black hoodie and jeans standing in front of a large window with a camera held up to their eye.
So these are the Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. I did a video about them already earlier this year, but they just got an update that I have early access to that makes this smart assistant multimodal. So it connects the AI to the camera on the front, and it's pretty good. So you always have to start it with the same phrase. So I have to say, hey Meta, look and tell me how to save this plant.
The plant appears to be a Dracaena, which is known for its durability and low maintenance requirements. To save it, make sure it's getting enough indirect sunlight and water it sparingly, allowing the soil to dry out between waterings.
So it's pretty basic now, but theoretically in the future you can look at a leaky faucet and it can tell you how to fix it, or you can look at a restaurant menu, it'll read the whole thing and tell you which ones have nuts or which ones are spicy. Accessibility aside, that's pretty cool.
Fascinating. Yes, early in its production, similar to Vision Pro, which drops very soon. Okay, people are already rushing to try to get their hands on the first pieces that roll out. But it's happening fast. Once this becomes cool, which I'm showing you examples of that process now. I mean, just like we see everyone on TikTok, everyone with an iPhone, or at least an Android, or let's just say everyone with a smartphone, everyone with social media, most young people with TikTok. Once these types of technologies reach that level of usage, a lot of these things I've been describing as potential consequences are going to start to form. So 2024 is the year of mass deception because we're being introduced to technologies that directly impose, impede, and disrupt our ability to understand what exists, what doesn't exist, and what is true, what isn't true, what's real, what's not, etc., as well as it imposes, impedes, and disrupts our ability to interact with self once we start communicating with bots all the time, as well as others in our environment. 2024 is that year where these systems and these technologies, they're already developed, so it's not that they're developing, but are introduced to the human population in mass for the first time. 2024 is the year, just like 2023 was the year of the deployment of artificial intelligence, right? As far as its infantile commercial release. If you look at AI now, especially if you play around with some of these systems, man, they're pretty darn good. Maybe not for a lot of us. We kind of, you know, I could debate with an AI, especially on certain topics, anything philosophy based, and, you know, it's easy to beat it. But when you think of anything STEM related, logic related, mathematics, I mean, these things are powerhouses, right? Now, given that 2023 has prepared AI to the position it's in now, 2024, we're now being introduced to new systems that tend to focus more on the virtualization of things. And then we'll see the merging of these things like that there, which is the merging of AI with a type of augmented reality through these glasses. More features are going to be applied where we will be able to create augmented reality experiences, and eventually moving into XR once blockchain and AI is at the state that it needs to be. Now these are now if you go to TikTok, these glasses are super viral. A lot of people are making videos of them. Now, what's interesting is most people are doing this for engagement. They're doing this for views or what have you. But the point is, through the process, through the leveraging of the flesh and nature of attention economy, the behavior of human beings, it's exposing the population to the technology that, in a sense, indirectly normalizes it by not necessarily its application in their life, but its representation through simulated events on screens. So the more people see them, the more people see people using these glasses, whether they're really using them or not, it normalizes their presence and their existence. Now, I'm getting off of TikTok. I don't even like going on this site, so I'm not going to show any of those videos. But there's a lot of them. Someone has written here. Here. I'll show you this one.
And if you let me, I wanna see it in motion, in 3D.
Oh no, we're gonna get hit for that song. Let me turn it off. So this is a very popular TikToker doing it. It's the sunglass trend. So now they're popularizing this tech through, of course, TikTok trends. So these are just different examples of it. This is how it works, man. So it's a bunch of these, man. And they're all playing the same song. I don't know what this song is. But this is just an example of how it works and how it's introduced to the youth. TikTok is just, it's a powerful source. It is a powerful platform for social engineering. You want to make anything popular. You want to make anything sell. You want to make anything normal, cool. You find some way to get it to go viral on TikTok. Done. Now let's get back to Brownlee quickly here.
You see. And so you just heard that photo thing?
Yeah. I see two people sitting in a radio studio, wearing headphones and facing towards microphones. They appear to be hosting
Great
a show or
point.
podcast.
The princess, make it sexy.
That's
exactly.
Isn't that kind of sick?
That was pretty
sick
solid.
as hell, dude.
That's pretty crazy.
Isn't that
good.
kind of sick?
That was pretty
Sick
solid.
as hell, dude.
Didn't say one seemed bad,
That's
but
super cool.
I've tried this in a bunch of different spaces, and it's accurately portrayed. I walked over to the door where Cadence was sitting, and I petted her, and I said, "What do you see?" And it said, "I see a dog. It's one of these two breeds, and it's sitting in front of a glass door."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't ask for any of that, but that's pretty good. Hey, Meta, make it funnier.
Sure. Here's a revised version with a bit of humor. Well, look what we have here. It's two people sitting in a radio studio, looking like they're about to host the most epic podcast ever. They've got their headphones on, their mics are ready, and they're staring intensely into the camera like they're trying to hypnotize us with their broadcasting skills. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're secretly planning to take over the world with their podcasting powers. I guess we'll just have to tune in to find out.
Come on.
That
great.
It's funny because of how fucking cringe it is. Like that.
Yeah, clearly very early, but this is where it starts, guys. We're going to look back years from now when kids are walking around, with whether they're contact lenses or maybe some smaller, fancier version of glasses, and they're just wigging out on, virtual LSD every day, creating their little solipsistic environments and experiences. We're going to think back to this rollout. Now, this is, I have some Ray-Bans. I'm not saying Ray-Ban is a bad company. They make good glasses, just general basic glasses, decent quality, right? But this stuff isn't necessary at all. But we're going to look back and we're going to think. We're going to be like, hey, this is when it started and this is how they do it. This is how they do it. AI has personality now, exactly. Man. Oh man, the potential of this. Now, yeah, they're cringe, true. What a waste of time and on purpose. There we go, MK. Well said. And I think this speaks to the time. Those of us that have been around a little longer, maybe experienced life before a lot of this tech, we understand. We can see this divide from like passive entertainment and this vapidity. We could see this divide and how we need to get humans back to living. But the younger generation that were born into the world with this stuff, man, this is it. This is living. Hence post-humanity and the closer steps, or the closer we get through all of these steps. Yeah, Oakleys. Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't own any now, but I did have some pretty cool Oakleys back in the day. Nothing wrong with wearing a pair of glasses. Just don't wear them too much because, you want to get that sun in your eyes. It's good for you. Glasses are a scam, says Rachel. There's a whole movement that's anti-glasses and even claims they're unhealthy. And I think wearing them too much could be because it keeps your eyes from getting the healthy rays and vitamin D, etc. But I do understand what you mean by scam. They can be useful. I remember one time I was coming home from a trip in the mountains, and I remember, everything's white because it's snowing like crazy, but it was sunny out and the ground was wet. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but there's this blinding reflection that bounces off of the asphalt from the sun and the wet surface of the ground, especially, I guess, interacting with the white snow. And it's blinding. It's blinding. So a pair of glasses, especially a pair of shades, comes in very handy because it's dangerous to drive in that kind of condition. It was kind of scary because I didn't have glasses at the time. But they have their use, and then there's the whole fashion thing, right? There's a fashion element, which some see no point in fashion. But if we're going to consider aesthetics, I guess there is a place for fashion, but always within reason, I would argue, right? Nothing wrong with having a little fun. But as long as it sticks within those parameters, right? You got these people that live for fashion and spend their rent on clothes. It's crazy. Shawana says, scam, child, tell that to my eye. Now, we're talking about actual glasses, like, glasses to see better. That's a whole different thing. I'm just kind of speaking to like shades. I've read how there's a movement against shades. How it's counterproductive, and some of the arguments are actually pretty strong. Unless it's summer, says Calix. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, glare, Brian. It was scary, man. I literally couldn't see for some moments, and I'm just like, whoa, that was scary, man. That was scary. My eyes were so sensitive at that moment. Now, so Ready Player One, if you guys remember this, we've been talking about it. There's a new massive metaverse experience in partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery. So isn't it interesting, as Vision Pro is getting rolled out, as Meta Smart Glasses have just been rolled out and being popularized through TikTok and social media, as AI is at a point now where it's very useful and productive for Snowblind. There we go, Deep Space. Very productive for a lot of people regarding not just gathering information, but even interacting. People are having fun communicating with some of these AI systems. So now we have, wow, the guy behind Ready Player One. This speaks right back to hyperreality, the merging, the fusion of reality and non-reality or virtuality. It's like just like that movie, the makers of the movie are coming together to create an experience that was in the movie but in the real world. Creepy. But for those that have been around this channel and these communities, you already know the blurring between reality and virtuality has been a big part of this for a very long time. So let's look at this here. Ready Player One to be turned into massive metaverse experience in partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery. 2024, the year of mass deception, when a lot of these more developed, more invasive, more immersive technologies are introduced in a commercial consumer fashion. Fascinating. A huge virtual world based on Ready Player One, a story set in a future where people enter into a virtual reality simulation to escape the real world, is coming soon to a real, but virtual, platform near you. Futureverse, an AI and metaverse technology. Again, now they're merging. You see, it's all about singularity. It's all about convergence, whether it's biological, digital, entertainment, environmental. It's all coming together. So now we're being introduced the metaverse, but integrated with AI, as if we didn't see this coming. An AI and metaverse technology and content company announced the formation of Readyverse Studios, a studio co-founded with the Ernest Cline, the novelist and creator of Ready Player One, and Dan Farah, producer of the 2018 Warner Brothers film adaptation of the novel. Art and reality, art and life. Which one is it? Is it art? Is it life? Who's pretending to be who? I mean, this is hyperreality, guys. And it's all happening at the same time. It's so crazy how fast all of this is happening. In its first major deal, Readyverse Studio partnered with Warner Brothers Discovery to exclusively bring the Ready Player One franchise to the metaverse across Web3. In addition, Readyverse Studios maintains exclusive Web3 rights to all future intellectual property created by Cline. So I just, presenting these things, showing you the connections, showing you the development, showing you the deployment of it all at the same time. And of course, we got Vision Pro coming out shortly. And this month, I believe. Now, I want to show you something quickly here, a paper on hyperreality, just for definition's sake. Okay. Let's see. Oh man, this one always does this. Maybe I could do this. Oh, that didn't work, did it? All right, I know what I'm gonna do. Let me just scroll down. Oh, it didn't save my highlights. That's lame. All right, so hyperreality and semiotics in postmodernism is an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality, especially in technologically advanced postmodern societies. Hyperreality is seen as a condition in which what is real and what is fiction are seamlessly blended together so that there is no clear distinction between where the one ends and the other begins. It allows the commingling of physical reality with virtual reality and human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Okay, now let's go down here a bit. Hyperreality, actually, let me just, is it going to let me do this? Yes. There we go. Hyperreality is significant as a paradigm to explain current cultural conditions. Consumerism, because of its reliance on sign exchange value, brand X shows that one is fashionable, car Y indicates one's wealth, etc. This concept of consumption, object, product, and identity, the integration, the interdependence, right, of object, product, and identity could be seen as a contributing factor in the creation of hyperreality or the hyperreal condition. Hyperreality tricks consciousness into detaching from any real emotional engagement, instead opting for artificial simulation and endless reproductions of fundamentally empty appearance. Essentially, although Baudrillard himself may balk at the use of this word, fulfillment or happiness is found through simulation and imitation of a transient simulacrum of reality, rather than any interaction with any real reality. This is where we're moving towards when I talk about kaleidoscopic vision, when I talk about emotional weight, when I talk about this idea of exponential scrolling and screen worlds. This is the description and the representation and expression of a hyperreality. While hyperreality is not a relatively new concept, its effects are more relevant today than when it was first conceptualized. This is attributed to the way it effectively captured the postmodern condition, particularly how people in the postmodern world seek stimulation by creating unreal worlds of spectacle and seduction and nothing more. Right? Very, very interesting. So interesting. First Lovia says, why do you have voice tech on? That's new for voice tech. What voice tech? What do you mean? Oh, maybe you're talking about, are you talking about these waves right here? Oh, these are just visualizing the audio. Yeah, it's not necessarily voice tech. It's just visualizing the audio. It's like what you would see on a radio or bars, the bars on the, what is it, the spectral field of the audio. Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't call it voice tech. It's more visual than anything. But yeah, it's definitely new. Yeah, 2024, got some new things, got some new setup here, new stuff. I continue to reinvest into the production for you guys, man, keeping it fresh and just trying to constantly improve and get better and provide you guys more, right? I take pride in trying my best to excel and improve at what we do here, right? And I couldn't do it without you. Trust me on that. Now, yeah, modulation at the bottom of the screen, visually. Visual modulation, yes. It's a good way to say it. Not audible modulation, but definitely visual modulation. Sound levels, another way to say it. Equalizer, yes. Spiritual logic, yes, bro. Looking fly, bro, says Robtic. Shout out to Robtic, appreciate you, man. Yeah, man, if y'all like the merch, man, support the show by rocking the merch and at the same time promoting the work and creating little conversation pieces for people who might be interested in what does that mean or what is that. And I got some new merch for you guys too that I'm going to be presenting here for the 2024 season. Now, let's talk a little bit about distraction, because now I want to describe to you how all of this is possible, right? From, hyperreality, preoccupation with these screen worlds, outsourcing relating, outsourcing doing, outsourcing mundanity, obsolescing the self concept by building a meta self or avatarship through these AIs that create digital mirror versions of our personalities through collecting our data, our behavioral data, as well as education, VR, AR, XR, smart glasses, virtuality, all of this stuff. How does this stuff happen? Well, it happens when and we've talked about this, the society is in general distracted, disaffected. There's this constant state of disaffection. People are just dissatisfied with life, with the environment, with the state of things. I mean, whether it be economically or just culturally, even in their personal lives, they might have issues with friends or might not have any friends at all. Might be seeking a mate and can't find one. Might, just there's so many reasons for people's despair today. But one way of a therapeutic practice often is pleasure seeking or seeking distraction. And I believe this is happening through experience. And these technologies are offering that experience, right? Now, I want to read a piece out of the often referred to book by Frischman and Selinger, Re-Engineering Humanity. Let me bring up the cover here for you before we jump into it. Engineering Humanity, one of my favorites. I love this book. Oh, I love this book. Okay. It is just so valuable. Not my favorite, but it's a valuable piece for this research. Oh, did he? No excuses? Man, shout out to KJ. Love that guy, man. So much love and respect for that dude. One of the biggest OGs in the game. I'd love to collab with him again. We had talked about it, it seems like a couple of years ago now. You know how it is, or on the other side of the world, Actually, no, I think he's been in the States, actually, I believe. But yeah. So, I want to read you guys this here, just, to give at least my understanding of presenting some evidence for my positions and presenting some references that support my positions from people that are far more knowledgeable and studied than I am. Somebody mentioned Dr. Deep State earlier, another person I look up to and really respect, someone far more researched and knowledgeable than I am. Author of phenomenal work on the singularity that I've promoted here. He just finished up a book. I actually got to reach out to him, man. I want to have him on and go over some of these ideas and really dig into some of this stuff. Dr. Deep State, Dr. Haugen. Shout out to him, someone that is inspiring to me, given his accomplishments and just the work he's done over the years. It's phenomenal, as well as Brother Stephen DeLay, Christian philosopher and regular on this channel for years. I think since about 2017. Shout out to Stephen DeLay. Yeah, so I'm just getting a little tired. Sorry, guys. Let me read some of this. This is from chapter 2, Cogs in the Machine of Our Own Lives. And this is speaking to the concept that they really lay out well. This idea of engineering complacency, right? I love how they break down behavioral processes over time that give up or create or make it such that humans are subject to the manipulation of these technologies through a type of conditioning over time that weakens or attenuates their ability to willfully and critically think about consequences of interaction with these technologies. And what happens is they become, through this process, they become passive and complacent. And through this process of passivity and complacency. I add to it that a type of general vapidity or vapidness is produced in the personality, where you have the normie brain that just is preoccupied with viral issues, mainstream news, Netflix, and prawn or video games. Like that's an outcome of this complacency. But they go into some specifics here that I love and I refer to quite often. I think they're pretty important. So, let's see. We focused on delegating physical, cognitive, emotional, and ethical labor to a third party. Actually, let me bring up the book here for those that are interested in what I'm reading. This is chapter 2, page 29. We focused on delegating physical, cognitive, emotional, and ethical labor to a third party, often through technical devices, systems, and applications. This is known as outsourcing. Rational people choose to outsource for lots of reasons, including to save time and other limited resources. From an efficiency-oriented perspective, outsourcing can be a beneficial process when rational, when within reason. And I would argue or add to this, without being compulsory, impulsive, or I think compulsory is the best term, right? It becomes a compulsion to interact and to outsource. These are some things I tend to focus on. And what I would also add to this, which I presented today as an idea I've been working on, is the outsourcing of mundanity. Taking away the little things, as Mo Griff had brilliantly said earlier, the little things in life, outsourcing them to an automated system. I think over time, and especially once we start outsourcing, once we start focusing on utility and efficiency as the driver in life, life is about utility and efficiency. So I'm going to just outsource as much as possible to emphasize efficiency of life and moment and time. Once we get to that point, what is that process we're experiencing? Is that living anymore? Are we still living at that point when we're interacting with reality in the world in a very weird mechanistic way? Is that still living? I would argue it's not. And to many people, that might not matter. And I accept that. I accept that. But I spend a lot of my time thinking about these things. So I can easily agree to disagree, just based on the staunch nature of all of it, from my view. Now, so here they talk about, yes, this is 6 major forms of outsourcing that create a type of engineered complacency. Real quick here, before I read, sorry guys, this has got so much stuff here. I want to show you this slide quickly here. Engineered complacency. I want to define engineered complacency first. Engineered Complacency by Frischman and Selinger, Reengineering Humanity, 2018. Refers to the ways in which technological and social systems are designed to encourage passive acceptance and non-critical engagement with the use of technology. This concept highlights the potential of modern technologies to shape human behavior and attitudes in ways that may lead to a lack of awareness or concern about the implications of their use. The authors argue that engineered complacency can have significant impacts on individuals and society, and they call for a reevaluation of the design and implementation of technological systems to promote more active and critical human engagement. Very, very key, very, very important, given the state of things and a lot of the work here. Hence why I really like referring to this book, because it's a good supporting reference for a lot of my ideas, and I think it demonstrates, or it expresses accurately a lot of what we're seeing today. Okay. All right, now, all done with the slides. Oh no, what did I do there? There it is. From an efficiency-orientated perspective, which is the problem, right? An efficiency-orientated perspective. When people live life to be efficient, and I think this is happening more and more, because people have less time now because there's so much more content. There's so much more to experience. There's so much more types of experiences, virtual, mind you. It's not like people are just, there's not enough time to go out and hike and to run and to visit with friends and to go out and try new foods and to plant a garden and to play sports. There's just not enough time to sit down and write and to read and to engage with my children and my family and my friends and physical reality. Not that kind of no time. I'm talking about there's just too much to see through screens, right? There's just far too much content now, info glut, right? That now everyone is like going on this efficiency perspective where everything has to be efficient because there's just so little time. They have to outsource as much as possible and automate as much as possible to free up time because we're so consumed by all of the information that we're bombarded with day to day. And we have so many fancy technologies, so many cool devices and applications and platforms that we don't even have the time to interact with all of them. And they're far more entertaining than the real world because they're far more stimulating on a very sensorial base that a lot of people don't get. It's not that these things are inherently more valuable. It's that they exploit aspects of your psychology that you are blind to. Outsourcing has 6 essential characteristics. Well, first, before I get there, from an efficiency-oriented perspective, outsourcing can be a beneficial process within reason, an efficiency perspective within reason. A slightly wider lens shows how outsourcing may have unintended consequences and trade-offs. Outsourcing has 6 essential characteristics. First, passivity. So there's 6. Passivity, decreased agency, decreased responsibility, increased ignorance, detachment, and lastly, decreased independence. This is brilliant, great foundation for understanding some of these things. Okay. First, passivity. As we accept assistance, say through AI as an example, we lessen the personal effort needed to accomplish a goal. As effort diminishes, passivity takes hold. At a certain level, we become akin to spectators rather than active participants. Pay attention. Second, decreased agency. We participate in less of the process than we would if we performed it ourselves. And then I think we even get separated from the process itself. We get separated from experiencing the process of doing, which I think creates a type of atrophy, a behavioral atrophy, where we forget to know how to do things. Less effort results in a corresponding reduction in our experience of the action itself. Our behavior becomes less intentional. And some measure of control is lost. I think this adds perfectly to my idea of living deliberately, deliberate living. We can't live deliberately when our intentions, our agency and will is weakened by convenience, by abundance, by outsourcing, by automating. Now, again, some of us are rational. We're not going to automate life. But we have to think about the younger kids growing up with these devices. We have to think about the younger people who are lazy and consumed by this world and this culture. They will automate as much as possible. There's consequences for it. Third, decreased responsibility. By abdicating control over a process, we can become less culpable for how things turn out. This is a double-edged sword. The very reason that we can become less blameworthy can also leave us less entitled to feel proud of positive results. We can't claim ownership over what we do, over what we accomplish, because we didn't do it. We didn't accomplish it. What does that do to the identity? What does that do to the level of esteem? This makes me think of Gunther Anders' view of, the Promethean jealousy of technology. We're jealous that the technology can do things that we can't. That does something to someone's identity and their self-worth, if you will. When something amazing happens through collaboration, nobody deserves all the credit. Very important. Very, very important. So what are you at that point? Fourth, increased ignorance. The delegation of tasks can limit our understanding of how a process works, even if happens by translating our requests into algorithmic or mechanical processes that computers, which don't always behave the way we do, can perform. Poe for 2024. Man. Fifth, detachment. One of my favorites. Experience becomes, at the extreme, less intimacy results in alienation. Sixth and lastly, decreased independence. When outsourcing becomes habitual, we become dependent on a third party for getting stuff done. I would add to that, or even thinking on our own. We can forget how to perform a task, or become less capable of doing it, or we can lose the motivation to increase our knowledge and skills. That's key. Why learn? Why read? Why seek knowledge in a true sense, in an authentic sense? Why enhance memory? Why practice? Why? When AI could do it all for you instantly. Imagine what happens to one's ability to critically think at that point over time. Learning is rooted in intention. You have to want to learn. Yeah, I'd say between the ages of 1 and, say, 7. We have this almost autonomic sense of learning, this inherent development, say, with language. Right? You don't necessarily learn how to speak in a way that requires teaching. A child develops its ability to speak by that which is around it. But I'm talking about learning, say, later in life. That takes intention. You have to want to learn. It requires interest. You have to be interested in knowing something enough to spend time, dedication, and figuring things the hell out on your own. That requires discipline. That requires deliberation. A lot of people are replacing this now, it's what they call, just Google it. That was the beginning. Just Google it. I hated that. I hated when I just hated hearing that. What do you mean just Google it? How do you know it's accurate? I mean, there's many sources out in the world, physical forms. And again, I do understand it takes deliberation, it takes time, it takes diligence, it takes intention. You have to want to learn. A lot of people use this argument, I agree, when it comes to education. You could throw all the money you want in schools. You could hire all the teachers you want. Do the kids want to learn? You can't force someone to learn. I mean, I guess you can to a certain age. Right. So important. So important. Knowledge and skill. We address these issues. We can lose the motivation to increase our knowledge and skills. Why would you want to learn? Why would you want to increase your knowledge? Why would you want to increase your skills when you can replace it with an automated system? What if we come to the point where AI is so integrated and sophisticated that it can do most things for us day to day? Say outside of physical things, of course. But what happens when we're not very physical to begin with? What happens when we spend a lot of time idle, sedentary, entertaining ourselves to death? What becomes of us then? Outsourcing affects more than how a task is completed. When deciding whether to outsource, we need to consider whether it's worth losing agency, responsibility, control, intimacy, and possibly knowledge and skill. and this speaks to my point I made earlier about atrophy, apathy, that fits too, but atrophy, the atrophying of these different processes and experiences in life. You know, as they used to say, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Remember that old saying? Use it or lose it. It's similar, right? If you don't use your brain, you lose your brain, right? Use it or lose it, sister. I just remember that from one of these movies, man. I think that's what it was. Something like that, man. I don't know why that popped in my head. We address these issues by critically discussing a specific form of outsourced navigation, and then we go into actual navigation. And for those I remember, we covered this particular chapter in length back in the day because it's interesting and deep. All right, Kava, we're wrapping up here. So thank you for being here. I know I kept y'all way too long. Way too long. But, you know, first show of the year. So much to cover. And I wanted to do a type of show where we cover a lot of important concepts. And I wanted to kind of build a model of understanding of how a lot of this stuff works. So a lot of this stuff we won't really have to repeat and go back into. It's kind of a preface of sorts, you know, leading into this year and all the different areas we're going to go into research-wise. And also prefacing some of the purpose behind the work here at this channel regarding technology and its influence on the self and society and behavior and civilization as we know it. I wanted to present, especially for a lot of a lot of the new listeners and viewers that might be new to this work and new to this channel, or maybe people who are just stumbling upon this, possible naysayers that maybe think these ideas don't make any sense, or should I say these ideas are silly and not realistic. I just wanted to present a foundation and evidence-based model for understanding that this is all very, very real, very well researched, and a massive field of research and information regarding philosophy of technology, as well as concepts I mentioned today, like post-phenomenology, phenomenology, all of these different schools of thought, whether that be psychology, object relations school, sociology, social psychology specifically. All of these areas are areas that I do a lot of work in, and they, in a sense, kind of present a lot of the ideas here, of course, grounded in the Christian worldview, a theological foundation in that none of this could be possible without an all-knowing and all good, all perfect God. There has to be a foundational root, a worldview to make things consistent, but as well true. Yeah. So I think I got a couple more things.